Sorry about that, got cut off, the video got cut short, so continuing. The Illuminati cabal, satanic cabal that runs the planet, shares this with the Abrahamic faith, the centrality of sacrifice, human sacrifice in particular, but animal sacrifice, pagan sacrifice, scapegoating, scapegoat sacrifices. In the case of Christianity, the pagan scapegoat sacrifice of Jesus to atone for the sins of mankind. But Islam sacrificed goats, and in Islam they sacrifice goats, and in Judaism red heifers, and war and genocide is right up their street. Plus pedophilia, of course, which are permitted in Judaism and Talmudic Judaism and Islam. They have no problem with it. So that's right up their street. So I put it to you that it's actually Islam and Judaism in their radicalized forms are merely tools for the subversion and oppression of the masses, to terrify people into submission to one or other of these faiths, or even Christianity, the threat of punishment and imminent hell, the last day, the day of judgment, which is central to all three of these faiths. The end times, eschatology, which is lifted wholesale from Zoroastrianism, and in the case of Islam, Zoroastrianism, there's no injunction to kill those who don't believe in the last day or the day of judgment, but in Islam there is. So that's rather peculiar. I don't see why you should kill people who don't believe in the last day, or people who don't believe in Allah, period. What is Allah anyway? That's for everyone to decide for themselves. And he even said, Muhammad, there should be no compulsion in religion, and later contradicted himself. And I believe he was an apocalypticist, like Jesus. He believed that the end of the world was perhaps not imminent, but within a generation or two, the last day was imminent. In fact, the Quran does state the time is near, and when the moon will be split in one place. So it's quite clear that the threat of imminent doom was being used by Muhammad, just as it was with Jesus, to cajole people into believing, getting on their knees and repenting for their sins. And that's really the hard soul of Islam. And Judaism is pretty much the same. Having looked at the hadith concerning the Mahdi and the last day, the last day is deemed to last for 50,000 years, which is an absolutely absurd concept. 50,000 years, the day of judgment. I don't think anyone can take that seriously. And the hadith about the Mahdi, the coming Muslim Messiah, it's quite clear Muhammad was referring to someone from his own family, the Quraysh tribe, who would come within a generation. You can read the description in the Wikipedia entry on Mahdi. To me, there's no doubt that he was an apocalypticist. The Illuminati connection, as I said, the Illuminati worship Baphomet, the devil with the goat's head. The term Baphomet, I think, is a reference to Mahomet, in fact. What I read about it is that the term came about in 1072. Somebody, Christian, heard some resident of Tyre exclaiming Baphomet, Baphomet, referring to Muhammad. And read some interesting modern scholars in the Oxford English Dictionary state that the origin of the name Baphomet was a probable Old French version of Mahomet. Alternative etymologies have also been proposed. Peter Partner states in his 1987 book, The Knights Templar and Their Myth, In the trial of the Templars, one of their main charges was their supposed worship of a heathen idol known as Baphomet. Baphomet means Mahomet. The description of the object changed from confession to confession. Some Templars denied any knowledge of it, while others who confessed under torture described it as being either a severed head, a cat, or a head with three faces. Gosseron de Montpezin, a knight of Provence, said the superior showed him an idol in the form of Baphomet. Another, named Raymond Roubaix, described it as a wooden head on which the figure of Baphomet was painted, and adds that he worshipped it by kissing its feet and explaining Yallah, which is Arabic, which was, he says, verbum Saracenorum, the word of the Saracens. Yallah is a quite common phrase in Arabic, exclamation. A Templar of Florence declared that in secret chapters of the order, one brother said to the other, showing the idol, "Adore this head. This head is your God and your Mahomet." That's Thomas Wright, The Worship of the Generative Powers, 1865, page 138. So, medieval Christians believed that Muslims were idolatrous and worshipped Muhammad as a god, with Muhammad being Mamet in English, meaning an idol or false god. So by doing so, they were able to fetishize the enemy, the god of the enemy, and defeat them. The Romans did a similar thing with Carthaginians. With Carthage, they took their god Cybele or whatever, and started worshipping her alma mater. What's her name? Alma mater, and defeated. That way, they were able to defeat the Carthaginians, who threatened them under Hannibal. Anyway. So Muhammad and Baphomet seem to be connected, and it's obvious with the emphasis on carnality in Islam and the fulfillment of carnal desires, and the concept of heaven as being a paradise for a Muslim martyr who would be able to cavort with 72 virgins forever. Obviously, would have helped to help to form that kind of image among Christians. Thomas Aquinas said so much in his criticism of Islam. It looks like they hexed Muslims, and that hexing has gone on to this day. I don't think Muhammad was very cunning, businessman, a trader, and, basically a businessman. He sold Islam to these people, but not all that bright. I wouldn't call him, was not as bright, intelligent as Jesus. Although Islam and Aql and intelligence is prized in Islam, and the search for, knowledge, like in other Abrahamic faiths such as Judaism, in particular, is stimulated and encouraged knowledge about the world and knowledge about God. But I think this reflects in the attitudes of a lot of Muslims. I don't see their adherence to dogma, and they're completely brainwashed and toxified by this dogma. It means they can't see the things that you can see as a Christian, with a Christian mindset, or even a secular atheistic mindset, a scientific mindset, or even Hindus. I find Hindus to be, in general, a lot more intelligent than the average Muslim. I have no friends, and I have no friends at all, actually, but that's beside the point. Really. I live alone, and I've never related to Muslims. I lost contact with my family members because Islam I find to be an intolerable travesty. It doesn't make sense, and I think rift done scientifically, certainly not, and in terms of the anomalies and discrepancies with the Abrahamic faiths, which others have gone into in greater detail. Ex-Muslims like Rifdan, apostate prophet, leave in the link description box some of his videos where he goes into detail in the scientific errors in the Quran. The only thing I took away from the Quran, in fact, was from the Surah Qaf, which is Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. And I use that as a sort of a pointer to my own spiritual exploration. If God is closer to you than your jugular vein, then you can forget the middleman, and God is with you the whole time. You're not praying to a God outside yourself. And that's the only thing that stuck with me from the Quran. The rest of it I just ignored because And it's surprising you get these little nuggets here and there which are, contain wisdom. That means you don't have to listen, follow a prophet or some authority outside yourself, and you can commune directly with God. That's what that implies, Surah Qaf, and I'm not going to read it, but that helped me in my own spiritual search and the determination. Since God is closer to me than my jugular vein, I can talk to God directly. And that led to a lot of interesting mystical experiences and insights. And I've been communicating with that God directly for the last 15, 20 years. So I have my own truth, my own experiences, direct experience of God. And I think I have certainty about God, which nobody has, that I've come across has. So, and I've explained that in my videos. And I got information from that deity, that being, quite unique to me. So, you got Jannah, the idea of Jannah, and the 72 virgins. I always found it rather strange, and martyrdom. Well, I wasn't force-fed with ideas of martyrdom by my mother, who was the main purveyor of religious programming to me in my earliest years. I never got the idea that I had to be a martyr. I always found that strange, shaheed, martyr, 72 virgins. But what about for the women? What do they get? Do they get to be virgins? And, interestingly, I'm clairvoyant, and I sometimes speak with dead relatives, have done, whose spirits came to me. And my uncle, deceased uncle, Pakistani, who was a lawyer, Khalid, he told me there are no 72 virgins. And every time I see the spirit of my father, deceased father Ahmed, he's usually accompanied by my mother. So where are the 72 virgins there? But then again, that's my personal private experience as a psychic. Experience. Jannah 72, there's no description of Jannah, what it's like. That to me sounds like booking a holiday to a destination where you don't know what it looks like. You want to know where you're going, Is it 24-hour shopping? What are the hotels like? And there's no adequate description. The only one who gave a description of Jannah, the Muslim heaven, is Ibn Arabi. He described I believe that there is a description from Mahomet of the two rivers, Kauthar and Rama, abundance and light. But the only one who endeavored to describe Jannah was the Sufi, proto-Sufi mystic Ibn Arabi. He described a sort of courtroom and the throne of God above the Arsh. Anyway. The Day of Judgment, all of these things are lifted straight out of Zoroastrianism. And the curious thing is that Zoroastrianism doesn't admonish Zoroastrian believers to kill those who don't believe in the last day. Then why does Islam recommend that unbelievers, those who don't believe in the last day, the last judgment, or Allah, be killed? No. So, the word paradise is from the Parsi word paradise, which means walled garden. So many of the Islamic iconography for heaven is lifted from Zoroastrianism. As is Islamic prayer, I found evidence that Islamic prayer was influenced by Zoroastrian prayers. And then you've got the 99 names, beautiful names of Allah, Husna, was it? Asma, I don't know the Arabic word, sorry. The 99 beautiful names, which seems to be, dependent on or lifted from Zoroastrianism, where you have the 100 names of Ahura Mazda, who's the deity of Zoroastrianism. Then there's the other thing that the last day lasts in the Hadith lasts 50,000 years, which I find an absolutely preposterous idea. I would have thought the angels would have fallen asleep halfway through the judgments, the lawsuits. This is an awful long time for one single day to last. So that simply is the mystical imagination, I think. Muhammad was a mystic, and he saw things in a mystical trance or an altered state. which have no bearing, no relation to reality. And that's the case with all mystics, quite honestly. It's, close to psychosis in some cases, I suppose. Because my mother had schizophrenia, and she also had visions. She saw my father as a prophet, and so on. Anyway, and she was, quite devout Muslim in the end of her life, because everything else in her life failed, so she had to turn to Islam. Anyway, the 99 names, Baphomet, and then there's the Mahdi figure, which is just basically the idea of the Saoshyant, the avatar, that's, the Mashiach in Judaism. And the prophet, as I've just stated, I think, that the Al-Qaim, in the Hadith, he states that it would be somebody from his own immediate family, and that would be within a generation. So that's really, I think, a strong case in support of the fact that he was an apocalypticist who believed that the world would, if not in his lifetime, shortly thereafter end, and there'd be the day of that judgment, as I've just mentioned. The moon would split and stuff. And we must forget, of course, the 6 days. The earth was created in 6 days. The 3 Abrahamic faiths believe in this. Islam is a little bit more open about it. It allows for speculation, it seems. 6 days can be interpreted as epochs of time, but Christianity and Judaism absolutely, take this literally and won't brook any divergence from the dogma that the earth is, St. Augustine, who gave the Christians that idea that the earth was created in 6 days. Which the Jews, the Talmudic Jews, also believe, and that the earth is flat with 7 heavens. This belief is also part of Islam. It's obvious that the Prophet believed that the earth was flat. I mean, the Quran states the Prophet saw the sun setting in a muddy spring. Okay, that's the origin of the sun. That means that the sun is revolving around the earth. And they did actually believe this. I've got some evidence of that, I think. There's a whole... I'll leave the link, actually, for Wikipedia on Flat Earth and Islam. And believe it or not, most of these founders of these religions I checked up, people like Buddha and Zarathustra, also believed in a flat Earth. But it was the ancient Hindus and Greeks who knew that the Earth was round. And the Ptolemy, I think it was the Egyptian. That's when the idea of the world being round came into Middle Eastern thought. But Eratosthenes correctly, Greek mathematician, correctly calculated the circumference of the Earth. And before that, way before that, the Vedic Hindus, in the very ancient treatise on science and algebra and mathematics, the Surya Siddhanta, they knew that the Earth was round, and they even calculated the sidereal year and the rotation of the Earth around the Sun to within 1% accuracy. So how about that? But on the other side, what do these religions worship? They worship Saturn's cube. The Kaaba is a pagan idol. It's a pagan house of worship, which were widespread throughout the pagan world. I mean, there was a Roman emperor called Elagabalus who used to also worship a black stone. This is cognate with, this is the idea of the lingam, the Shiv link in Hinduism, and Elagabalus worshipped the sun god as a sun, and Elagabalus, Allah. So that was a Syrian, Roman emperor of Syrian descent, centuries before Mahomet. So, I think in Petra and all through the ancient world, there were these black cubes. So that is a pagan artifact, the Kaaba, and Allah is simply the Canaanite god El. Although there's no evidence that historic evidence that Abraham or Ishmael ever went down to Mecca. So I find that implausible that they built the Kaaba. But the Kaaba is the Saturn's cube, you see. Saturn, which is also in the phylacteries of Jews, Orthodox Jews. They have this little black cube, a prayer box they put in. and they worship Saturn on Shabbos, Saturday, Saturn's day, Saturday. Basically they're worshipping the same God. Allah is not a moon god. And that was a trope that was spread by the Illuminati, the Freemasons, that Allah is a moon god. And that's completely inaccurate. Allah is the Canaanite Israelite god El. Maybe the moon god is Rudra, who is the Hindu god Shiva. Rudra is the name for Shiva. And they worship this black stone meteor on the side, Ram Sharif, I don't know what the name is, I've forgotten. But whatever, which they kiss, which is on the side. And it's a meteor, piece of black meteor, and that is, a circumambulation of the black stone. These are Vedic customs. So Vedic Hinduism, as I say, Rudra, moon god, in ancient pre-Islamic Arabia. Lakshmids, they were a colony of an empire on the west coast of the Arabian Peninsula, in pre-Islamic Arabia. Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth in India, and the Hebrew word lechem comes from that, derived from that. In Aramaic, it's lachma. In the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, Jesus, hold on, lachma, tsunkanan yaumana. Lachma, give us this day our daily bread. So lacham, I don't know what it is in Arabic. Let's have a look. What is bread? So you can see etymologically, anyway, that there are connections with ancient Vedic culture, which is arguably the oldest civilization on Earth. And my belief personally is that I personally believe that it spread westwards through the Jews, the Canaanites, and invasions, the Aryan culture of the Indus Valley. What else were we going to talk about? Well, Islam in its golden age, they kept astronomy alive, and they brought Hindu numerals to the West, and algebra, al-Khwarizmi, and Greek thought. But the fact of the matter is that the big three Abrahamic faiths would be nowhere without the input of Greek philosophy, which caused the Enlightenment and golden age of all these three faiths. Christianity would be nowhere without the Logos, which is a Greek word, and Sufi mystics like Ibn Arabi were influenced by Plato and Neoplatonists. In fact, he was called Ibn Flatun, which means son of Plato. So Judaism likewise was influenced by the Neoplatonists, and the evolution of Kabbalah can be thanked to that, the Gnostics as well, the Gnostic Christians, influenced by the Neoplatonists. So I went into in earlier videos Jesus, what he really meant by the kingdom of heaven. Well, there you have it. So basically what Islam was a revelation, especially for the Arabs. And what Islam to me means is Arabism, Arabic imperialism. So you have to pray to God in Arabic for your prayers to be heard. That seems to me a bit absurd, because God would be able to listen to your prayers in whatever language you pray. And if he's so merciful, beneficent, kind, beneficent, merciful, and lots of people pray in different languages and get their prayers heard. So it's really just Arabism, militant Arabism. And my own family were converts to Islam. They're originally royal Kshatriya caste Hindus, and they converted to Islam in Uttar Pradesh several generations back in protest against the caste system. So Indian Muslims are quite different, I don't have any affinity with Arab culture. I don't find, in general, Arabs not as bright, not as intelligent as the Europeans, obviously, which is why they import European ideas and European culture. And they're a bit hypocritical about it. And I think they should be more honest with themselves about that, Islam has always grown through imbibing the Golden Age, in the Golden Age, imbibing ideas from other cultures, and likewise Judaism. And the two are very close. It's Judaism for Arabs, and that's basically it in a nutshell. And there's other ideas which I couldn't quite. My father's name was Ahmed, and that's the name that Muhammad used to claim that he was prophesied by Jesus in the Bible, and Jesus was referring to him when he meant there will be a comforter, parakletos in Greek, that there will be a comforter who will come. And it's quite obvious Jesus meant the Holy Spirit, or an angel, an archangel. The Holy Spirit will be the comforter when Jesus is not there. He was not referring to the Prophet Muhammad. I found it an absurd idea. But nevertheless, I believe that somehow Muhammad managed to gain divine favor. And that's what it's all about, really. Why would Islam, why would a primitive, 7th century nomadic cult grow to such grow so exponentially? I mean, there must have been some force behind it. So I do believe he was a prophet. He was being guided by God, but clearly God gave him a lot of information which just not true, is it? The Quran is not infallible, which should beg the question: what kind of God does that? And not why did a 7th century nomad was whatever people think barbaric ideas. I think he was just a product of his time, like Jesus was a product of his time. These are primitive people. We are not living in the primitive age, and I've stated that. To identify with ancient people in this time is absolute. It's nuts. I can't emphasize this enough. We are not living in the old age that's finished. These people rode horseback. They didn't have cars. In the Quran, it states the stars were put in the sky for the benefit of man. And this idea that the universe was created for the benefit of Adam or King David or Muhammad, all of that is told by this entity, this God, this deity. And I have my certainty that what this God is, I saw his face, and that gave me certainty. But my testimony wouldn't be, I've stated that in my video, that in 2019 I saw the face of God. And that doesn't make me religious. That destroyed all my religiosity and confronted me with the awful truth. And it is that this is a draconis reptilian race. And that's probably too far out for most people, but you can believe what you like. I saw what I saw. And I'd be prepared to take a lie detector test if necessary. Religious people think, it's just a kafir, it's just a nutcase who wants to draw attention. Atheists will say, it's probably just hallucinating, he's psychotic or something. I don't know, but I saw what I saw. It gave me certainty about what God is and what God isn't. I saw something that none of the prophets saw, not Jesus, not Muhammad, and any of the other fictional prophets like Abraham, Isaac, Esau, and Jacob, who never existed. So it gave me the power and the strength to want to look behind the veil, because I saw behind the veil. I saw that this God is not a human, fuddy-duddy, avuncular man with a beard, sort of Father Christmas who really cares about me. No, it's some non-human entity. And that changed everything. That shattered my whole perception of the world. And you're welcome, free to believe that if you want or not. It's not a question of belief for me, because I had an experience, a direct experience. It was earth-shattering, absolutely mind-blowing. Probably taking LSD or something, but I didn't take any drugs. And I had been practicing certain mystical practices around this time. Yeah, okay. That, as far as I'm concerned, blows away every form of religious belief and brings what I'm trying to put in perspective is the fact that all along we've been manipulated by an extraterrestrial race of proto-humanoids, with other DNA than us. They have advanced technology that's indistinguishable from magic, and they're able to create prophets and miracles and all these sort of things. And I think time will tell, the coming years, that that's actually the correct, that's Occam's razor. I think that would explain everything that's going on very adequately. Occam's razor, what's the most likely most likely explanation is probably the right one, the simplest explanation, that these are extraterrestrials, and there are a number of people who are ploughing that particular furrow and going down that path, and they're debunking old biblical texts and showing them for what they are, probably something of extraterrestrial or intraterrestrial origin, I'd say. These are beings who were here before us, and they maybe created us and created all these myths and to program primitive man and make him subservient. And I really believe that most of humanity are suffering from Stockholm syndrome, and they're terrified of this God and have made him into a sort of cuddly teddy bear. And I think it'll be further from the truth, or perhaps that's not the whole story. Whatever your ideas of God, good luck. I have my own thing. So the reason Muhammad and his cult, in fact any cult, gets off the ground is because he enjoyed divine favor, which is rather curious considering the information of the Quran is not not infallible, is it? And his followers destroyed the worship of the idolatry of rooted out the idolatry of the three goddesses, pre-Islamic goddesses, Al-Uzza, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Al-Manat, who are cognate with the three Canaanite goddesses, Asherah, Astarte, and Anat, and the three Hindu goddesses, Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. So the triple goddess theme, you can see that, again, another idea from Vedic religion, which permeated to Arabian Peninsula and to the Holy Land. And you had, there are also remnants recently found of the Mitanni kingdom in Israel, in Palestine, Israel, which was a kingdom which worshipped a people who worshipped Vedic gods. It's quite clear in the inscriptions that they were Aryans, Vedic Aryans. And that's, I think, really, I've covered everything. Yep. Paradise. Yeah, good. Yeah, well, that's all I had to say about Islam. I really, really believe it's high time there's some kind of reformation, and people who are intelligent, moderate Muslims should take it upon themselves to allow an enlightenment to take place and not support apathy or indifference, and question the dogmas that are bold. Again, if Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein, then why do you need a book? Why can't you just talk directly to Allah? That's my message to Muslims. If Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein, why can't you talk directly to Allah? Because He's closer to you. He's with you all the time, isn't He? So why are you going to get on your go and do all these things? Why don't you try it? Ask Allah. Christians can do it, so can you. And that's all I want to say. Assalamu alaikum, shalom alaikum, namaste, and bless you.